Hey everyone, Arthur Fantastic here, aka the Bishonen Ronin, and today we're going to be talking about the Craig Jones Invitational rule set, as well as analyzing those rules as it speaks to the more general grappling world. First, starting with my plugs, Arthur Fantastic on all social media. If you want to follow me on IG, Arthur Fantastic 1K instead of IC, holler. Wearing my old Otaku MMA shirt. It looks like it's backwards in my camera. I don't know if that's going to be the opposite when it comes out. We'll see. Uh, Beyond that, you can tip in Ko-Fi, which is like buy me a coffee. You give a small increment if you like what's going on here. But you know what else helps? Likes, comments, and subscribing. So really want to get you guys into the comments, getting this discussion going. Share this if you want to, so that we can get other people discussing the rule set. We know and have been discussing on this channel. If you want to look in the description, as well as if I do the cards up here, of the recent videos that I've been talking about grappling rule sets and some of the problems plaguing it, including people just sitting guard as well as stalling. With that being said, let's talk about the Craig Jones Invitational, who they seem to have some rules to actually answer those very problems that they foresee. First off, it's going to be taking place in the pit, or the alley, actually. Let me get that right. The pit is from Karate Combat. This is nothing new. We all know this. It's been talked about for a long time. For those who don't know what that looks like, go to the Karate Combat channel. People have been talking about how this is a great platform for grappling. You know, the raised platform, you get pushed off. The ring, it's hard to see because of the ropes. Same thing with the cage. The cage creates also a lot of cage wrestling. When you have the pit, and also on mats, just mat space, there's going out of bounds, infinite space, nothing stopping them. These are just the ones off the top of my head, and there are other people that go deep into the subject. When you go to the pit, though, you can't wall wrestle. It's a very steep angle. It's more of you're now conceded and fell over, and now you're on guard. Um, there is obviously a space and confines within there where you're not going to be infinitely running off the mat. There's no issue like that where you're going to fall off the edge. It's contained. And it's also really good for the viewing audience, for people who are watching or have been to a Karate Combat live event, not just seen it on the amazing production that they've got going over there. Seeing in is so much easier than looking up and then having people in front of you. You're actually standing in like stands that are what are these called in high school? Like the bleachers, they rise, so you have a significant height advantage over the people in the level below you, and just amazing ability just to see down into the pit. There's nothing blocking your vision, not even the barely the refs, and maybe depending on where you're standing, the camera crew, because they have a huge camera setup. But really, they're not even when I was there, they're not that much of an issue at these events. You know what I mean? It's just like if you're like standing directly behind one. So I would just move to the left or right. There's a lot of space. So anyway, getting off track here. It's going to be in the pit. Those are the advantages. That's why I think that this is going to be a great event in terms of the issues that we're seeing in other platforms of grappling. We'll see how that goes. A lot of this is going to we are looking at what Craig Jones is doing. He's kind of might be even setting a new standard with these rules that he's got going. Time limit. It's going to be 3 by 5 minute matches. If it comes to a draw, the person who wins the third round will win those matches. Those are the regular matches. And it's similar, once again, to the Karate Combat, where they have a sudden death round, but now they're making the last round basically sudden death if you aren't actually ending it by submission. Finals is 5 by 5 minute rounds plus a 5 minute overtime if there it needs to be. Okay. that is going to be insane. What we've got is going to hopefully be high action because it's got a shorter amount of time. We've been seeing people talk about, oh, now that's like the last 3 minutes, they're going to really go. We've seen people talk about this in Karate Combat. Actually, that's once again, I've been discussing this over a couple of videos where people are acknowledging that there's a lot of stalling in these matches, and then these last couple of minutes we're going to really push it down. So why not just limit it down to those 5 minutes and tell the fighters they have to go for it? Incentivize them. In terms of rules, slamming is allowed, but it's when you're in a submission. All chokes are allowed except like chokes directly to the windpipe. Spinal locks are allowed. Full Nelsons, I don't think those are allowed in ADCC. I'm getting a lot of this from Rasenha BJJ. We've got no grabbing the cloth of the person's clothing, no slippery substances, and as I said, no direct attack to the windpipe, no grabbing at the groin. Okay, these are the illegal techniques. So we've got basic rules, basically no holds barred. Pretty gives a lot of leeway to the grapplers to determine how they want to finish the match and allows them to basically finish them any way they want. The continued persecution and bias against frontal naked chokes, aka murder chokes, aka rape chokes, I don't know why they don't allow those. Those are just fundamental movements. Those should be allowed. Moving on, judging. Okay, judging this in Craig Jones Invitational is going to be a little bit different from what I've seen in other grappling promotions. We've got a 10-point must system, which is basically boxing, which is basically what they've got in UFC. You round by round, if they finish and it's not ended, one person has to get 10, the other person gets 9 or less. So kind of cool because how would you put it? If you were playing Street Fighter or some kind of tournament fighter game and one person had less health, then the person with more health would win at the end of that round, right? So the person with less penalties, I guess, wins that round, and who's tried harder that match. I mean, that is what it is, but it'll go to live judging. 3 judges are going to be for these matches. The criteria are initiating action, people who are trying to aggressively engage the other person, close submissions, dynamic actions. This is just ripped right from Rasenha, by the way. Once again, thank them again for putting this out. This includes passing, getting to a better position, takedowns, sweeps. Did I say sweeps twice? Maybe twice over. Controlling the match, and that includes the pace, the position. And once again, this is all kind of the criteria of judging that we see in Karate Combat. I need to highlight this because I feel like a lot of this is based on what they're doing in Karate Combat, and I think what Craig Jones and crew are doing here with the rules are going to fix the problems that I was just discussing in my previous video on the stalling that has been going on. Let me continue. The 3 judges have the ability to signal the ref to make penalties, to put penalties on certain combatants as they are in the match. But ultimately, the ref will have the final say when this happens. So, discussing the ref, let's go to about the ref. The ref needs to issue a warning, then he can take a negative point and or reset them standing. And the penalties or that people can be called for are passivity, which is avoiding contact or engagement with the other grappler. Once again, this is something that we see plenty of in grappling, not just in karate combat, not just in ibjjf, but in ADCC, in every major competition, that this happens a lot, and for not for wrong reasons. This is a good way to win, especially by the rule sets that they give them. You know, if you're ahead, that stalling has its place, but it's taken such a large place in the strategy and the way that matches unfold today, and hopefully the smaller time constraint, as well as these penalties that people can take against their 10 point must system, may hopefully incentivize people to go be more aggressive and not be passive. This, and also another penalty is stalling. Okay, stalling is when supine guard pull 3 seconds back to with a 3 seconds connection to the ground with their back without any connection to the other person. So that once that happens, you're just on your back, you're just laying supine, you're just conceding this position, you have no connection. The ref can call a penalty on that, and that can result in a warning. Okay, and then after the warning, he can issue a stand-up and or a negative point. So that's going to be key on how these refs are going to be pushing the match here, how strict these refs are, and that's remains to be seen until day of the competition. They can also be called for stalling for fleeing from a guard pull, which is just like kind of nebulous in its description, but nonetheless it is implying some type of breaking the guard, defending against it, or engaging it thereof. How that is going to be called, and which Rasenha also concurs, is a mystery. Remains once again until the day of competition. The last penalty that can be called is hands or feet touching the top of the alley, which is once again the pit structure that the competitors are going to be competing in. They will be warned, or if this repeatedly happens, they can take a point. Obviously, once again, the ref has final say on this. So the last thing I want to talk about, which the Craig Jones Invitational has going for it, is its incentive. You've got 10 G's and $1, which is a direct hit at the top competitor place of ADCC, getting only $10,000. So just to compete there, it's $10,001. And then if you win the entire bracket, you win $1 million. There is a million reasons why you want to win this. That is another incentive to go for the win, to finish these matches, to not play around, to not stall, but to finish, because you don't want to leave it to this 10-point must system or judges. Ultimately, the mission of getting grapplers paid has already occurred, as ADCC has, to secure their grapplers, paid show money behind the scenes, which is upwards than even the show money for a CJI, which is pretty insane, the numbers that they're throwing out there and that are being discussed, that is being dispensed just to have them in ADCC. So all that being said, let's just get to my analysis. I think that this is going to be a wrestle heavy event. I think that that's what they want. I think everybody understands wrestling. I think that somebody sitting down is kind of boring, and especially if they're just staying there, not engaging and doing nothing. They're just waiting for them to come down to them. Once again, I'm not against people playing open guard. I'm not against people pulling guard, using sumageshi, using tomonagi. I am against people just sitting there and being like, hey, get in my guard. Why aren't you just getting in my guard? I think it's a little bit silly, and I think that if you're not even going to try to wrestle up, as we see with Nikki Ryan and the whole B team, their wrestle up series that we've been seeing here and there. Even Marcelo Garcia did a little bit of wrestle up from his open guard that he was playing in his time. And I made exceptions once again for people who are playing this type of open guard, seated guard, who are aggressive and basically wrestling from their butt, by the way. So they're doing, and they're just, sometimes they're doing different ways of off balance. What we see here in terms of the refs, the penalties, and the judging, we see the highlight of aggression, the highlight of control, the highlight of trying to finish and trying to establish a better position in which to finish, which would be like pins. And this is what we've been discussing in the catch wrestling world for some time. And I think that this is where it's all going toward. Now, they're not actually going, there's no actual talk of, oh, we are giving points for people pinning, but the way that it's worded and the way that it was presented, even by Ruleset Senha BJJ, is that the idea of people having control and being pin, controlling the match, going for dynamic actions and controlling and going on top and sweeping and passing will occur from a pin type scenario. And we already know this in BJJ. We already know this in wrestling. We're just kind of mashing them together a little bit more without even acknowledging it or knowing it sometimes in the modern lexicon, the modern discussion, the modern forum. We kind of don't even acknowledge catch wrestling. And that it is what it is, but we're doing some catch wrestling things here with the way that we're matchmaking, which I'm going to talk about in my next video. I'm going to talk about the bracket. In conclusion, I would say that my analysis summed up would be that the Craig Jones Invitational seems to have rules and a judging authoritative structure that is going to enforce and incentivize action, in addition to the million incentives that is being offered to the winner of the tournament. So hopefully we don't see any catastrophic injuries. I know a lot of people are like, oh, people are not going to tap, people are going to get hurt, there's going to be some snaps. I really hope not to see any injuries. I just hope to see people really go for it in a top level way, and hopefully it come out to be entertaining. I don't think that injuries are necessary in entertaining, though a lot of people are like, oh, there's going to be injuries. I think that the rules themselves and what is at stake and all the incentives together are going to create a very interesting equation that we will see play out this weekend at the Craig Jones Invitational. So thank you for watching. Give it a like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on the social medias. Let me know what's good. Stay up, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded. Shalom, shalom. Peace in.